Hello, I'm Carrie Landsberg, owner and trainer with American Way University. Welcome to Part 2 of our course, Meshing the Generational Gap, Building a Bridge Between Baby Boomers and Millennials. Please ensure that you have viewed Part 1 before you continue forward with this segment. You may want to adjust your volume and make sure that it's at a level that is comfortable for you to listen to before you proceed. Enjoy this second part of our course. In this segment, we'll review the core values of the baby boomer and millennial generations and why they can seem so completely opposite from one another. We'll discuss the ever-increasing number of millennials entering the workforce and the communication challenges that employers are faced with having all generations in the workforce at one time. We'll debunk some common myths of the millennial generation and focus on techniques to attract and retain the millennial generation. And we'll conclude this segment with reviewing the many strengths the millennial generation brings to the workplace and your team. As we begin segment 2, let's recap some of the core differences between the boomers and the millennials. Boomers were raised to typically not question authority or the status quo. Now, that does not mean that they agreed with every decision their leaders made, but they were raised to respect authority. Millennials, on the other hand, were raised, ironically, mostly by boomer parents, to question things around them and not just accept the status quo merely because that's the way it's always been done or simply because someone told them to do so. Millennials were taught to find out the why and to be informed. Boomers often view work and their career as their top priority in life. Millennials view their personal lives and interests as their top priority in life. Boomers have made many personal sacrifices in an effort to get ahead in their career and have a longer-term payoff for themselves and their family. Millennials often view work as a means to an end to provide for their personal interests and priorities. You can see in viewing these few core values why there might be a tendency towards conflict in the workplace between a boomer employee and a millennial employee. Interestingly enough, boomers are predominantly in leadership roles across America. This means that boomers are largely responsible for the engagement and satisfaction of employees across many companies. Who is the generation that is entering the workforce in droves? The millennial generation will only increase their numbers as the youngest members of this generation reach working age. Nearly 80 million millennials will be entering the workforce. Millennials will dramatically change what our workforce looks like and more so how we operate. Will this pose a challenge to the baby boomer leaders who are responsible for connecting with and engaging these employees? It all depends on how you look at it. If leaders choose to ignore the differences across generations and continue to lead in a style that best suits their own generational style, then we will have a breakdown in communication. When generations fail to communicate effectively and seek out what is of value and appreciated, then we begin to see a domino effect of negative consequences. Employees want to feel valued and appreciated. Millennials in particular need and expect frequent feedback for their performance. When an employee doesn't feel valued, he or she will begin to resent their work environment, and more so, their direct manager will oftentimes leave the company. If communication is lacking between employees and leaders, the turnover rate will increase. The domino effect begins then because the cost of recruiting and training new employees goes up, and inevitably that means employers are having to lean on their remaining employees more so, who become overburdened and morale starts to dip. When communication is weak amongst leaders and staff and doesn't take into account styles and preferences, messages are often misunderstood, expectations are unclear, and complaints about policy and decisions can be on the rise. Without clear communication and understanding how to connect on a generational level, there can also be an increase in the perception of employers being unfair or showing favoritism towards like-minded employees. We are entering a critical time in the workforce where many factors are leading to what could be called the perfect storm. We have the largest number of college graduates hitting the workforce since 2009, and that number continues to steadily grow. On the leadership side, we have many managers who lack the skills and understanding needed to motivate and retain the youngest working generation. Too many managers are wanting to continue to lead all employees the same way. They are not taking time to learn how to connect with and engage this generation. Truly effective managers see the need to adapt their managing style to different generations. They realize the different events and experience we talked about earlier in this presentation cause people to think and act quite differently. They're also failing to be ready to retain this generation by involving them with the latest technology and skills and equipping them to be successful. When we are not investing in our company and investing in our people, we are unable to attract the younger employees and thus running the risk of being unequipped to compete in the future. Staying competitive in the marketplace means it will be imperative for you as a leader to embrace this youngest generation in the workforce. Statistics show, and you are probably already seeing a great shift in the workers you are hiring, that many will fall into the millennial generation, and that number will only continue to rise from your applicant pool. Your goal should strive to become or maintain a status of being an employer of choice. You want to have the reputation that job seekers want to work for your company and you. To gain this reputation, you have to be willing to work with millennials, not against them. This means you have to take initiative and interest to find out what truly matters to millennials and what motivates them. You as a leader have to understand you need this generation to remain competitive. Why, you ask? Because this generation has skills no other generation has. They have an understanding of technology like no other generation. They have highly developed social and collaborative skills like no other generation. As a leader, your mission should be to understand their strengths and play to them. By doing this, you engage millennial employees, helping them feel more fulfilled in their purpose, and you help your business become more productive by utilizing their strengths to take your business to new heights. Now we will dispel some common myths about the millennial worker. The first myth is that the youngest generation doesn't have a strong work ethic, dare I say, viewed as lazy in the eyes of some leaders. The truth is, this generation is very dedicated to completing the task at hand. They take great pride in doing a job well done. However, they do not view working long hours and putting in their time as valuable. This generation is about finding faster, smarter ways of getting the same goal accomplished. To them, it is about getting the job done quickly so they can move on to the next thing or have that time for their personal interests. Efficiency is a major driver in the millennial group. As a leader, this should evoke a positive response in you to know there are employees who will be finding ways to do it faster and smarter. Your job as a leader is to ensure there are clear expectations delivered in what makes it a quality job as well. The millennial generation does seek to understand their job, and they need that direction from their leader and peers on what their job really involves. Clear expectations and clear communication up front will go a long way towards helping a millennial worker be successful from the start. The second myth we'll address is that millennials want everything today and don't want to pay their dues or put in their time to advance in their career like previous generations have. The truth is, they are willing to put in time and do the job asked of them, but they're not willing to put in endless hours just to show their dedication for a company. There has to be a clear purpose they're working towards, and then they will give 100%. If they understand and can see how their values align to putting the effort in. As leaders, you need to clarify that purpose and help the employee connect their values to the goal or project at hand. Time is highly valuable to this generation. They grew up in rapidly changing times around them, including terrorism, white-collar crime, and an unsteady market. So they live more for the immediate, shorter-term goal. They live for now versus putting time in with the hope of gaining a payoff in 5 years down the road for one business. They have seen too many examples where many businesses are not around 5 years down the road. Their reward is for the present time. The third myth we'll discuss is the fact that many leaders feel millennials have no respect for authority. They say they're rude and arrogant in how they address their leaders. The truth is, millennials have great respect for their leaders and are fiercely loyal to those they connect with. The key is respect must first be earned. It is not automatically given by this generation just because someone has the title of manager or supervisor. To receive respect from the millennial generation, one must first show respect. You do this by taking time to get to know your employees, truly knowing them as a person, by inviting them to share ideas, listening, and then acting on those ideas where possible, and letting them know you value them as an employee and a person. Remember, they are all about looking outside of the box, seeking faster, smarter ways of getting the job done. Recognize those times and form a relationship with your millennial employees. This generation is looking for a tight bond with their immediate leader. If they don't feel any connection, they are not likely going to stay. In fact, the number one reason employees leave their jobs today is directly due to their manager. The number one reason employees stay in their jobs today is also directly due to their manager. You have an immense influence on whether your employees are engaged, and for the millennials, that level of engagement directly ties into the quality of your relationship. The fourth myth we will overcome is that millennials don't want to grow up. They just want someone else to handle all of their problems for them. The truth is, millennials do often have a bit of a delayed adulthood mindset. Ironically, those who are most frustrated with this behavior, being the boomers, are typically the ones who raised millennials and worked so hard to shelter their children from hard times and adversity. They wanted an easier life for their children and to let them avoid the hardships that they may have personally struggled through. It will be up to you as a leader to clarify expectations up front in what is successful in the role you are hiring for. You will also need to provide frequent and clear feedback on the millennials' performance. Millennials grew up in a society of instant gratification, including in how their parents communicated with them. Helping the millennial develop a mindset in taking full responsibility for their performance, their accountability, and their decisions will be part of the grooming process as they grow in their roles. Once they have a clear picture of what your expectations are, and if they feel you trust in their abilities and value them as a person, they will run miles to do the job well. How those expectations are communicated is entirely up to you as the leader. We know we need millennials on our team to remain competitive in the marketplace. We know they can bring great value if we tap into their strengths that will take our teams to new places. Let's now focus on ways to seek the millennial employee so that as you are having applicants applying for your positions, you can draw from the very best candidates. To reach a strong millennial candidate, you have to first know what matters to millennials. Understand their values and what drives them in determining where they want to work. There are 4 values near and dear to millennials. They are fun, flexibility, opportunity, and purpose. Millennials prefer a work environment that is fun, relaxed, and encourages collaboration. They are wonderful independent thinkers, but have engaged in groups all of their lives with social networking and technology. They talk to multiple groups all at once. They want flexible schedules and work environments that support their personal lives and interests. They will work hard while they are there in the role, as long as they know their purpose and how they fit in. They want to feel valued, that they will make an impact immediately. Knowing what values are most important to millennials will help guide where and how you advertise to reach this pool of candidates. It is critically important that you strategically advertise to the digital age candidates in venues they will be frequenting. For these candidates, you'll want to do more than just post your position. You will want to tell your story. Social media venues like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and your company website allow you to share your uniqueness, your culture, the fun you have through posts, videos, pictures of activities your employees are involved in. You can share what causes you support that drive your mission, how you give back to your community. It is critical to show this generation in particular that your company believes in contributing to a greater purpose. In these social media venues, you can tell stories and how you invest in your employees' continued development and growth. Millennials will be looking for companies who want to invest in their growth. The moral of the story is, if you want to catch a trout, you don't fish in your backyard swimming pool. Go where the millennials are, and you'll find amazing candidates to add to your team. To end part 2 of this series, I want to review the many strengths the millennial generation brings to your company and your team. This group is highly educated, with undergrad enrollment doubling since 1970 and post-secondary education only continuing to grow. This generation has a great passion for continued learning, so use that to your advantage and invest in their development. Millennials are quite confident using technology. They are the first digital natives and have always had technology at their fingertips. Get them involved using technology to drive your business forward and teach others who might be struggling to make that transition. Millennials are highly social and work great as a team. They live and breathe connectivity. This generation is incredibly enthusiastic. They want challenging, stimulating work and want to be able to affect the outcome of their work. Engage them and draw on that enthusiasm. They are inclusive. Think of all the diversity millennials have grown up with. This group by far is the most tolerant and open-minded group of all generations. Draw on that and let them teach others about acceptance and tolerance. Millennials are very committed to civic involvement, and it goes far beyond their local community. They want to be involved. They want to make a difference. They want to give back. They want to be resourceful. Let them get involved and invest in worthy causes that will make a difference in your business, your community, and our world. And better yet, enlist their help to lead the project. We hope you enjoyed segment 2.